I was thinking about this today a lot recently, actually. What do you want from local government? And it's important, obviously, but it's important because elections are coming up. Do you know that there are elections coming up in August? For example, our state representative, like Florida's version of Congress, the Florida legislature, we have a state senator, George Gaynor, and we have a state representative, Jay Trumbull. They term out. They term out. And so who's going to replace them? And are they going to be the type of people who view you as their constituent, or do they view the developers and contractors as their constituents? Who are they representing really? And who do they want to please? And do we know who they are? I've heard about them, you know. Um, my family knows them. We go to church with them. I hear so much talk, and it's true, that local government is where we can make changes, right? Do you think that, are you frustrated with the state of the country right now? Are you frustrated with the president? What can you do about it, really? Not much. Got to know about it, but not much. But what can you do about the governor? A little more, right? Your voice is worth a little more, but not much. What can you do about your mayor? Quite a bit, right? We see them in the grocery store. Maybe they're our neighbors. We can go to the meetings. We can make our voices heard. We can be a squeaky wheel. We can do things. We can even help mount campaigns and help people who are brave enough to run for office and defeat them. I know it felt like for a long time that they're undefeatable, but they aren't. Mary Coburn taught us that recently, didn't she? By a big margin. I'll say one thing. I do think voters, it's harder for the establishment, the local establishment, to get their people in. It's not as easy as it used to be, especially when it comes to city council, city commissions, county commission, stuff like that. But if you look at, again, the state representative, we've got a county commissioner who is running for that seat. His name is Griff Griffiths, right? Establishment guy. And then we've got an outsider by the name of Brian Cloudis, who's working super hard. I mean, I've never seen anybody work this hard, this long to run for office. As a matter of fact, I ran for office 4 years ago in 2018. And I'm going to show you a video of when I ran for office, what was important to me about local government. But voters decided what they would rather have is, well, instead of transparency, instead of the rule of law, and really keeping the peace on the beaches and in our communities, instead they wanted this. They want gigantic underground pipes to discharge stormwater into the Gulf. This is a picture of a pipe from, I think, 2015 or so in Myrtle Beach, South Carolina. That's where Panama City Beach, they're modeling the stormwater outfall project after Myrtle Beach in the Atlantic Ocean. These gigantic pipes that are big enough to drive a car through will be buried underground, 30 feet underground in the Gulf of Mexico, digging up the rock bed, discharging stormwater 1,500 feet into the Gulf, about, I don't know, quarter mile, half mile from the city pier. They call it strategic planning. I call it cronyism. I call it a lot of other things too, but I won't get into that right now. But instead of transparency, keeping the peace, voters were convinced, first of all, that I was a bad guy. And second of all, voters were convinced that they wanted strategic planning. Well, sounds good, but that's not what they got, right? And I've noticed this, that when people run for office in local elections, especially if their campaign manager is political operative and dumpster diver Arthur Cullen, if they have him as their, first of all, if any candidate has Arthur Cullen as their campaign manager, you should by default vote no on that candidate, because you know it's cronyism and you know it's corrupt. By the way, he is the can you believe this? He's the campaign manager right now for Griff Griffiths. He was the campaign manager recently for Jeff McConnell. He was the campaign manager before that for Bill Husfeld, for Mark Sheldon. But I think people are catching on a little bit. Now, when I say that people thought I was a bad guy, it's because of their dirty politics. I'm going to read your comments too. I'm really eager to hear what you have to say about these things. What you're looking for in local government. One of the other thing that I ran on was actual stormwater, fixing actual flooding issues, not going after federal grant after federal grant after federal grant and lying about it and purposely flooding neighborhoods to get money that they're going to award to their favorite contractors and most likely get kickbacks, right? And destroy the Gulf of Mexico. It's not what they ran on. Oh, and raise your taxes and assessments. They never say they're running on that. They always pretend that they're going to alleviate traffic, that they're going to protect our natural resources. And they always say transparency. I'll give you an example. Let me fix the blurry problem here. We had look at that. We had a guy run for a county commission a couple of years ago by the name of Doug Moore. Who do you think his campaign manager was? Arthur Cullen, right? Immediately, we should have known better. Now, Doug Moore promised when he became a county commissioner, he said that his number one thing was transparency, right? Open government. He hasn't done a single thing to bring transparency to the county commission. Not a single thing. Well, what could he do, Bernie? I'll tell you what somebody did when it comes to transparency that they can be proud of. And I think it's something that a lot of people would like to see. You can be a county commissioner forever if you continue to get elected. You can be on the school board forever if you continue to get elected. But you cannot be on the Panama City Beach City Council forever if you continue to get elected. Because Lee Sullivan and Linda Hardin and others who were on the council back in the early 2000s, they made a local ordinance that you could only serve 2 terms. That's transparency. I mean, that's pretty good government. I don't know if we call it necessarily transparency, but it's probably a good thing to do away with lifelong politicians and bring in citizen representatives to decide how we get along around here. You know, I'm going to show you. Do you want to see? Do you want to see the? I think it's a minute and a half long a video back in 2018 when I ran for office. These were the things that, and thank God I didn't win. I know you probably think I'm just saying that, but really, truly, thank God I didn't win. But I did do my very best, and as I always say, I was embarrassed that I lost. But it would have been terrible for me if I had been on the city council. For a lot of reasons. One, I couldn't afford that. Number two, it would be very, very difficult to represent the city as an elected official 24/7 and continue to do what I'm doing here. So I think that God knew it was more important for me to be a watchdog. But I will show you the video from when I ran. And these were the things that I thought were important. And then I'm going to look at your comments. And I'll show you that video right after this.
It's a hot time in Florida, and my friend Ryan could make sure your air conditioning is running at peak efficiency. He could even install a new one, built to a higher standard, American standard. Find out more at pcairrepair.com.
Don't let back pain and neck pain get you down.
Find relief at Brown Chiropractic Center on St. Andrews Boulevard in Panama City. Dr. Sherry Brown helps people heal naturally with chiropractic adjustments and deep tissue massage. Call 769-3777.
All right, this should be fun. This is from when I ran for city council 4 years ago. Would you have voted for me? My name is Bernie Thompson, and I've been here in Panama City Beach for a little more than a decade, reporting and commenting on local politics. When people ask me why I'm running for city council, the answer is because it's that important. I've done all I can to hold government accountable from the outside. Now I'm going to do my best from the inside. Have enough of us had enough of them yet? That's what I've been asking as I've been covering the Panama City Beach City Council, and it's been contentious. As a matter of fact, one of the city council members told me a while back, if you think you can do a better job, why don't you run for office?
You need to be part of the solution, shut up and present some solutions to the problem. If you don't like the way your political leaders, your elected officials are representing you, put your big boy pants on. You need to go down to the supervisor elections office and run for office if you can do a better job.
That's exactly what I'm doing. And I'm running for city council to restore public trust and the rule of law. When I thought about running for office, I talked to the Ethics Commission, and they kept talking about insider information. The government has insider information. And it got me wondering, why are there so many government secrets in the first place? That's not the way it should be. We shouldn't have to pay thousands of dollars for public records requests. When I'm your city councilman, you're going to know what the government knows. But I can't do it by myself. In order to get there, I need enough of us to link arms so that we can make the ground rumble under City Hall and restore public trust and the rule of law. Election day is April 17th, and it's right around the corner. And I am confident that enough of us have had enough of them. I'm Bernie Thompson, and I absolutely approve this message. I was wrong about that. I'll tell you what is why local government is so important, and you're about to find out. Assessments are being reevaluated, and assessments are local taxes. And the reason they don't call them taxes is because taxes they can use to pay for anything. Assessments feel just like taxes because it comes out of your pocket and it goes to the government. But it's earmarked. It can only be spent on a certain thing. Therefore, it's an assessment, right? It's a tax by another name. Now, these assessments are being reevaluated, and the government never has enough money for trash, for stormwater, or for water, for whatever it is they're doing now. And let me ask you this. How painful is it when you pull up to the gas pump right now? If it costs you, say, $60 to fill up your car, you're lucky. But it used to cost $30. So think about how much damage it does when that $30 that used to be spent for goods and services that you want, you can no longer get, and the stores that sell them can no longer make that revenue. This is devastating. But as our president tells us now, it's a needed pain because we're moving away from fossil fuels. And, we only have about, 8 or 9 years left before the planet boils over if we don't hurry up and raise the prices a whole lot more, that kind of thing. But the money that local governments are about to guarantee you, they're going to vote probably unanimously to raise assessments on you. So as though it's not already painful enough for you, government needs more money. And they'll do something like, we'll look at what the cost of living has been the last 5 years or 10 years, and then we'll figure out, how much more we need. One of the things I used to say on the radio all the time, this is one of my standards when it comes to if you're an elected official and if you're going to vote on something. One of my standards is this criteria for whether or not to vote on something. Does it protect the family budget? And does it expand freedom? If it does not protect the family budget and it does not expand freedom, vote against it, or we'll vote against you. Pretty simple, right? They don't give a flip about the family budget. They care about their revenue that they're bringing in. And it's never enough. And they don't give a damn that they're there to serve you. Their job is to serve you, to protect your rights, to treat you the same as they treat everybody else, not to change the rules and the laws along the way so that you can't plan your life and run your business. The rule of law. That's the rule of law. That's what made America America. But the biggest problem, do you agree with me here? The biggest problem is that the rule of law has been supplanted by the law of rulers, even petty little tyrants running around here talking about how much more money they need, and they've got to raise assessments. Oh boy, you're so lucky. Other communities have even higher assessments. We're doing really good, so we're going to raise it just a little bit. Your local government is about to do that to you. And they're not used to being voted out. God, I hope that Mary Coburn being voted in makes a difference. And I hope that it is the beginning of a tsunami of incumbents being thrown out. All right, I want to see what you're saying. It is money laundering. It's absolutely money laundering. Yeah. You know, and the kickbacks that go on around here, and I know with all of the FBI stuff going on and all of the investigations, they know, law enforcement and prosecution knows who has been lining their own pockets illegally. And it's about time something's done about it, isn't it? Yeah, I despise cronyism too. Boy, I sure hope that he says every elected official should have term limits. I agree. Term limits are not super high on my list of reforms, although it's in my top dozen near the end. I have other ones that are big for me. I'll tell you what they are. I'll tell you some of my. If you really wanted to have honest government in Congress, this is the kind of stuff that we would do. If I was sitting where Neil Dunn is, he's our U.S. representative, or Marco Rubio or Rick Scott are U.S. senators in Florida. This is the kind of bill I would introduce. Do I think it would pass? No, but we'll get some people talking about it, thinking about it, get a movement going. Here's one. Would this be a good law, federal law? No bill longer than the U.S. Constitution. Here's a copy of the Constitution. It is about 33 pages. Look how little it is. This is the supreme law of the land right here. No bill should be longer than that. Remember Obamacare was famously like 2,700 pages? No bill should be longer than the U.S. Constitution. If no bill were longer than 33 pages, or 34 pages, whatever that is, do you know what would happen? First of all, you could read the bills and understand the bills. Second of all, they couldn't put all kinds of other stuff in the bills. That's one. Wouldn't that be a great one? That's one of my top 3 reforms. I'll tell you one more real quick before I look at some more of your comments. Here's another one. I call it the Mission Impossible Act. Do you remember, who remembers the show Mission Impossible? You remember when they would list, if you don't know it, pull up YouTube and watch Mission Impossible tape. All right. It was a TV show in the 70s, and they would get a mission. The agents would get a mission, and it would be a cassette tape. It would say, your mission is to do X, Y, and Z. And then it would say, this message will self-destruct in 5 seconds, and it would burn up. just burn up, right? So this would be mine. Mission Impossible Act. If your bill that you sponsored or voted for does the opposite of what it says, the law self-destructs and you have to resign. Now, would that be amazing? The Affordable Care Act that is so unaffordable, it requires subsidies. Or the Consumer Protection Act that hoses consumers, that kind of thing. If your law that you sponsored, wrote, or voted for does the very opposite, the law should self-destruct and you should resign. It should be in the bill in one of those 34 pages. Do you have any idea how much freer and more prosperous and peaceful we would be, and how much harder it would be for politicians to steal from us by making things too complicated? All right. There's one, I'm going to tell you one other one that would be unbelievable. If you pass a law, you have to repeal 2 laws. Kind of like actually what Donald Trump did with the executive rules that were in place, all the rules and regulations. They weren't laws, rules and regulations, but they effectively are laws. If you pass a law, you have to repeal 2 laws. Would that expand freedom? Would that protect the family budget? You bet it would. These are the kinds of things. That's how my mind works. Will I ever live to see it? No. All right, let's see what you guys are saying. How about voting on spending bills with 10 items or less in the bill? I like anything like that. Anything like that. I'd like representatives that propose to remove laws on it. Patrick, I didn't even cheat, man. But you were ahead of me on that one. What do I think of Gates? It's a really interesting question. Let me put it this way. This is how I usually answer questions, right? Compared to what? What do I think of Gates compared to who, right? Compared to the other 434 in there, I think he's doing good. Do I have serious issues with him on a few things? I do. But the best way I can answer that quickly is compared to the rest of them, I like him. And I think one thing he does very, very well, Matt Gaetz, is even though Republicans are in the minority, right, in the House, he has the gift of being able to get conversations and ideas going on the networks and all of that stuff, and criticizing, like, for example, Congress for the last dozen years has not had a budget. Haven't had a budget. They borrow. Look this up. Congress borrows more than $6 million a minute. They overspend more than $6 million a minute. They have things called CRs, continuing resolutions, instead of a budget. What that means is they shoot from the hip. And when they run out of money, they say, well, there's going to be a government shutdown unless we shoot from the hip again and have another continuing resolution. Their job is to have a budget. They haven't had one since Obama took office, essentially, that time frame. Presidents propose budgets, Congress pass budgets, it's Congress's fault. Can you believe that? Oh my goodness. Things are so bad. But whose fault is it really? Well, I can point to a few. The press, because there's no oversight anymore. Because the national press are now PR firms, and I've explained why, because the corporations bought them. And so now they're PR firms working with the government. And locally, they're public-private partners. So there's absolutely no oversight. We get people like Mayor Mark Moneymover Sheldon in Panama City Beach, and you can name a bunch of others, County Commissioner Robert Conflict of Interest Carroll, and others. They vote on things that benefit themselves, and then they give a press release to local so-called reporters and news outlets, and they read those as though it's news, because these local news outlets get money from government to advertise tourism, and they don't want to lose that money. All right. Let's see. Yes. Oh my goodness. That's another one, Denise. How dare they even call the Patriot Act is about as patriotic as the Affordable Care Act is affordable. All right. So let me go over a few more things. If locally, elections are coming up in August. All right. Elections are coming up in August. So first thing you can do if you want to save time, I'm not even joking. I'm really not joking about this, although it is funny. If Arthur Cullen, political operative and dumpster diver, one of the biggest scumbags in the political arena, if he is the campaign manager for a candidate, that candidate should automatically be off your list. All right. Secondly, you can do that alone and save time. Let's see if there were other things I wanted to. You want to see what local politicians are doing in Panama City Beach, and they got so much money. They got $21 million to dig up the Gulf of Mexico, to drill in the Gulf of Mexico and destroy it, to discharge stormwater into the Gulf. That now you have other local governments slapping their arm like drug addicts, like fiends, saying, we want some of that money. We want to do what they did. Look at some of these pictures. This is Myrtle Beach. This is what's going to be on the shores of Panama City Beach. And the city council, Paul Casto, Mark Sheldon, Jeff McConnell, well, not anymore with Jeff McConnell, but these people, Mike Jarman, they want, what did they say? A dozen more, 20 more of the outfalls? They want like 10 of these out there. That's called a jackup barge, a jackup rig, or whatever the hell it is. That's what it's called. That's what they're doing. Here they are at a city council meeting a while back. Look at that. And I made sure to take the picture on top. In God we trust. It's blasphemy. These people lie with no compunction. They lie with impunity to you. Right under In God We Trust. There they are, talking about the stormwater outfall project that they say will mitigate flooding, but it actually will not mitigate flooding. In fact, it's only going to make the situation worse. You know why? Because of all of the development, tearing down the trees, the desire to dry up the wetlands that are north of the beach, discharge stormwater into the Gulf and closer to the beach. You know what they're doing? What happens when it rains and the rainwater hits the ground, right? If it's soil, it absorbs into the ground where it belongs. But what happens when they pave more and more and more? It's impervious. So that water that used to go into the ground will be added to the water that's going out into the Gulf, along with water they discharge from up north. They say, we're not discharging water up north. Drive down Highway 79 all the way to the beach. You see those gigantic pipes? Those are pipes that are going under the ground to discharge stormwater north of that area. These people lie with impunity. But will they pay a price? Well, elections coming up in August, and then 2 years, there will be more elections for local officials. And I'm hoping that people are asking, what do we really want from government? Here's another one. And this one has been happening so long that people don't even think twice about it. It used to be that we understood as Americans the importance of freedom and how freedom and choices that individuals make based on what they want and what they're willing to spend on people who are willing to create and sell products and services they want. That free exchange creates wealth and prosperity. But when government plans, when they have 10-year plans, they have a 50-year plan in Panama City Beach. Do you know, when I first started learning about politics, I remember hearing about Stalin's 5-year economic plan. And as Americans, we knew that was part of the reason why Russia was so stilted, why their economy couldn't grow, because economic planners can't possibly have all of the knowledge to do that. An economy is so dynamic. Things happen so fast. You can't predict what people are going to want, for example. But we knew that that was one of the problems with the old Soviet Union, right? Now we have even local politicians making, for God's sake, 50-year, 20-year, 10-year economic plans. Even Stalin was humble enough to limit it to 5 years. But we've forgotten what makes America great. And where it's most important, because we can make changes faster and they can make changes faster, is local politics. I'll tell you what I mean by that. This is a very important point. Why local politicians can sometimes harm you worse than state elected officials and federal elected officials. There's a particular reason behind it. You know what it is? Why city councils and county commissioners can hurt you faster? I'm going to tell you right after this.
When your life is on the line, hire the lawyer who lives in our community, works in our community, and worships in our community. I'm Al Saulene, your Panama City Beach lawyer. 850-215-0628.
You want to look good? You want to feel good? Little John's Big and Tall is where it's at. Right across the street from Sky's Pizza Pie, 5700 North Davis Highway. You can find out more online at littlejohnsbigandtall.com. He's also a member of the iTex trading community, where your iTex dollars are welcome.
So I see Denise says, how do I find out if he is a campaign manager for candidates? So Arthur Cullen, the political operative and dumpster diver, the establishment's choice for campaign manager, he primarily, exclusively does it in Bay County. So it may not affect you, but they probably have campaign managers there that do the same thing. So why can local governments hurt you faster than even the Florida legislature or the federal government? Here's why. Let's take the Florida legislature. They meet once a year for about 3 months. That's when they have all of these committees, and they usually, I don't remember what it is, they scribble down like 3,000 or 5,000 bills that these politicians would love to, pass through and have the governor sign into law. Well, at the end of the 3 months, only about 300 actually become law. Only. Think about that. Every year, we have more laws piled on top of us, which is why you are less free now than you were yesterday or last year or 10 years from now, which is, again, why we need to have it. If you pass a law, you have to remove 2 other laws, repeal 2 other laws. But they only can do that once a year, and it's very, very difficult. You got to get through the committees and on. And then the governor has to sign it, all that stuff. Local governments, however, meet every 2 weeks. Every 2 weeks. And they don't have committees. Local government every 2 weeks can pass ordinances with 3 people, 3 out of 5, that destroy your lives, hurt your lives, and they're about to do it again by raising assessments. They're going to raise assessments. Do you think when they start talking about assessments coming up, do you think what they're going to do is go, is there anyone on the board, any of the 5, who are going to say, gas prices are astronomical, food prices through the roof, on and on, right? So this is no time to raise assessments. We, government, we need to find places to cut. You think that's going to happen? I'll bet you it won't happen. They need to find places to cut. But instead, they're going to continue because they're like fiends and drug addicts, and they need more and more of your money because, after all, it's just a little bit. And aren't you lucky? Other communities, well, their assessments are a lot higher. You watch. You watch. It's so important to know one more thing. I'll tell you. This is a big one. Something I've learned over the last, I don't know, how long have I been doing this? A quarter of a century. I've been studying this stuff, thinking about this stuff. This is huge. I debated a guy on the radio one time. It was back around 2011 or 12, something like that. I don't know, 2010 maybe. And this guy was, he said that Barack Obama's Cash for Clunkers, remember the Cash for Clunkers? Where they were, the government was buying used cars as though that's good for the economy. Why? Well, this guy who had a master's degree from George Washington University, his name is Todd. Todd and I were debating this issue. And he told me when the government injects money into the economy by buying these cars, there's more dollars in our hands. And I said, wait a minute, you're starting the story in the middle. The government isn't injecting money into the economy. The government took it from us first. And since government is expensive, it laundered the money. So when government takes $1 in taxes, they don't put $1 back. They take $1 and give, I don't know, 50 cents back. I'm sure it's much less than that. But they don't inject money into the economy. He started the story in the middle, didn't he? Then he said this. If some of that money falls into your hands because you sell your clunker to the government, which they destroy, then you take that money and you go to it's what he said. You go to the sporting goods store and you buy a pair of shoes. Well, the store owner doesn't care where you got that money from. He only knows it helps him. Now, talk about a narrow field of view. Here's what I said. Dollars are not the same. Here's what I mean. Dollars in the real economy, right? In the private sector, as people say, those dollars have to be earned, right? You have to willingly give it to somebody for a product or service you want. Dollars that are earned make America more prosperous. Government doesn't do that. Government awards dollars. Government awards dollars to their favorite friends. Dollars that are awarded lead to deficits. Dollars that are earned lead to prosperity. America would be better, wouldn't it, if dollars were earned and not awarded? Because dollars that earned are more valuable than dollars that are awarded. These are things people have forgotten. We got to remember these things. We've got to pass this information on, and we have to elect officials that understand it. It takes a lot of courage to run for office. A lot of courage to run for office, because the scumbags will find your most embarrassing moment and splash it on their front page of the paper, which now they own too, by the way. But at some point, some of us have to say, do what you got to do. But we've got a country to save, as Larry Elder says. We've got a community to save. Do what you got to do. They're not asking us to storm the beaches of Normandy. That's hard. Being humiliated is hard. But we can't save what's great by avoiding pain, can we? All right, I'm rambling. I'm looking at your comments. All right, I'm going to wrap it up. Ask yourself, what do you want from local government? Do you want local government to plan what we're going to look like? Do you want local government to assess you more? And when these so-and-sos are running for office, and I've never seen, take Doug Moore, for example. Let's take some of the recent ones. Doug Moore in the county commission. He didn't run for office saying he was going to vote to raise your water prices, to raise assessments. He said he was going to run to represent you and to bring transparency to government. hasn't done any of that. What about Mark Sheldon? Did he say when he ran that he wanted to dig up the Gulf of Mexico and discharge stormwater? Did he say that he wanted to raise assessments and create new ones? No, they didn't say that. They never say that. But once they do it once, you know the saying, as George Bush said one time, fool me once. You know how it goes. I sound like Joe Biden. You know the thing. What do you want? And have enough of us? Had enough of them yet? I sure hope so. All right. I know it's a different show, but it was on my mind. And since it's just you and me, I thought I would share that with you. All right. I want to also remind you, if you want to support my work, here's how you can do it. You can become a patron at patreon.com/Bernie Thompson, just like giving a tip for as little as $5 a month. It's anonymous. Nobody will know you're doing it. It's important around here. It's easy, and you can quit at any time, and it sure helps. Also, of course, you can sponsor the show if you've got a business, or like the Unknown Patriot does, who prefers to not face retaliation. So I'm always grateful to the Unknown Patriot. All right, I'm going to wrap it up. I will see you back here soon. What do you want from your local government?